that how to install the maven. Okay, and what is exactly use of maven. Okay, so just let me. Okay, so what is maven? Okay, how to create the maven project, how to install the maven. Okay, and how to create the simple maven project. Okay, what is group ID, what is artifact ID, what is the version, right? Now when we talked about the maven, there are two kinds of repository available, right? So first one is are you guys getting background noise?
No.
No,
No,
sir.
Ajay,
It's
no.
okay.
Just a minute, I will close the door as well. Okay, so when we talked about the repository, right? So in maven, there are two kinds of repository available. So first one is the your local repository, and second one is the remote repository, or we can say the centralized repository or maven remote repository, right? Remote repo. Okay. Now, what is mean by maven remote repository? Okay. So if I say like, I want to download the Selenium maven dependency, right? So what exactly happened? This is the centralized or remote repository of maven. Okay. So basically what will happen? Okay. So assume this is my computer. Okay. And in my computer, I'm having uh, this is my computer, and in this computer I'm having maven installed on my machine, and similarly I'm having pom.xml as well, right? So in pom.xml I'm going to add few details. Okay, so basically which are the details I'm going to add? Okay, so these are the details I'm going to add. Okay, so first of all, group ID, I'm going to say this is my group ID. Group ID, then I'm going to pass artifact ID, and I'm going to pass the version, right? Artifact ID and so basically I'm saying like, my group ID is, let's say, Selenium HQ or something like that, right? Artifacts, I'm going to say like, this is Selenium Java, right? And version, I'm going to say, let's say 4.2.12, something like that, right? So this information will be passed to the maven centralized repository. So in maven, there is one centralized repository. Okay, so if you see this particular maven repository is your centralized repository. Okay, so this request will go to this particular maven centralized repository. Okay, now this request will pass to the maven centralized repository here, right? So I'll say this is my maven remote repo, right? Maven remote repository. Now on this machine or on this particular server, so everyone will update their jar which is available to download. Okay, so for example, I'm working in Selenium team. What I'm going to do, what are the latest version of the Selenium? I will update to the Maven. Okay, I will push that particular jars to the Maven centralized repository so that anyone can take, get downloaded on their machine through the Maven. Okay, so it's responsibility of whoever working on that project. He will update or he will push their jars onto the maven centralized repository. Now what I'm doing through the Eclipse, I'm sending the request. I am having this group ID, I'm having this artifact ID, and this is the version. Okay. Then Okay, in response, what you will get? You'll get the jar of that particular um, library. Okay, so for example, if you're looking for Selenium, right? So you're going to say like, group ID is Selenium HQ dot something or com dot Selenium HQ dot org. Okay, or org dot Selenium HQ, something like that. You're sending group ID. Then artifact ID, you are going to say like, Selenium Java, and version you are going to say, let's say 4.0.0, right? So here it will check like this version is available or not. Okay, if it is available, it will get downloaded on your system from the remote repository, right? So this is something we called as the remote repository. So when we talked about the Maven, you have to consider this particular repository as well. Okay, apart from that, there is one local repository is also available. Okay, so now everyone got the idea that like there is one remote repository available and from which we can download the whatever the jars we required. Right. Now what is the use of local repository? Right. So if I go here, first of all I will see what is exactly where is exactly local repository is available. Okay. So for that what I need to do, I have to go to the Mm, for example, let's say this is my computer. So I'm going to go to the C drive. Okay. Now in C drive, you can see the user folders is there, right? So in user folder, this is my user Ajay, right? So I'm going to this particular user, right? User directory, that is the Ajay. And here .m2 directory is there, right? So now this .m2 directory is my local repository. .m2 is my local repository. Okay, so if you see these many, I mean, things we have downloaded, we have on local rep here, all right? So on my machine, there is one M2 directory. That particular M2 directory is considered as a local repository. That particular uh, directory is considered as a local repository, right? So each and everyone who has Maven installed and he has, I mean, running the project through the Maven, so he will get this particular M2 directory on their user directory. You can, if you want, you can check on your machine that M2 directory will be there, and this particular M2 directory is considered as your local repository. This particular M2 directory is considered as your local repository, right? Now, what is the use of this particular local repository? Okay, so for example, I'm working on one project and let's say, or maybe in my project, there are different modules available. Okay, so this is first module. Okay, this is the second module. This is the third module, right? For example, these are the modules. Okay, now consider this is the module A, B, and C available, right? But sometimes what happens, like, module A is having dependency on B and C, right? So in that case, what I can do, I can, have these packages module B and C in this local repository because I don't need, I mean, push those, to the Maven because this is my company internal. So in that case, what I'm going to do, I'm going to have these, A and B and C jars on my local itself, right? And from local, I can use it. Okay, wherever it is required, I can use it. So consider this is my M2 directory. M2 directory dot M2 directory, right? So if in my inter project internally, if I'm having some dependency, suppose for example, there is one jar, let's say, for example, module A jar is required for me. Okay, so what I will do, I'll make a jar of that particular project and I'll place it into the M2 directory. Tomorrow, if that particular jar is required, let's say in module C, then I can access from here. Right. This kind of situation mostly for automation will not require, but developer will require this kind of things like, what they will do, they will add the multi-module Maven project and they will set the dependency, one module dependency on another module. Right. So in that case, they will, I'll show you how to add this, jars, whatever jars we have created, that how we can, deploy those jar into the local repository. But use of local repository, if you want something locally, okay, and if you are having some dependency, then what you can do, you can publish those jars into the local repository, and from local repository, you can use wherever it will require in your project. Okay, this is clear for everyone. Vipin.
Yes, sir. Clear for now.
Okay. Okay. Now what I'll do, okay. So this is about the repositories. So these two kinds of repositories are available in Maven. Okay, two kinds of repository available in Maven. Right. Now Maven is having their own life cycle as well. Right. So basically we got the idea, like, through the maven, we have, this particular file which is named as pom.xml. In this particular pom.xml, what are the different dependencies we required? Those dependency we can add it here, right? Those dependencies we can add it here, right? Now in this case, I have added the selenium dependency and common IO dependency as well to take the screenshot, right? So this kind of, that might be possibility in your project. You are using different tool. Let's say Cucumber, let's say TestNG, let's say JUnit, let's say you are using any other different library. Let's say JXL you are using, yeah, or maybe you are using, let's say, Apache POI. These are the different dependencies, right? So if you are required this kind of dependency, what you are going to do? You are going to add those dependency in your pom.xml file. In your pom.xml file. Now see, here we have created this error is there. What it is saying? Okay, maybe we are not passing the path that. Okay. Okay, so if you consider about the, Maven, so Maven is having their own life cycle. Okay, so whenever we are working on any Maven project, so you have to, perform these different you have to go through these different phases. Okay, so basically in Maven there are these are the phases available. So first phase is clean phase, then validate, then compile, test, package, install, and deploy. Right. So let's say clean phase. Right. So if you clean phase, okay. So what this particular phase will do? This will delete your target directory. Okay. So first of all, what we are going to do? We are going to learn basic things about the Maven, and then we will shift our whatever framework we have created. That particular framework we are going to shift into the Maven project. Right. So first of all, just we'll do the basic understanding of Maven. So what maven clean command will do? Okay, so basically it will delete your target folder. Okay, so as if you remember, when we are discussing about your uh, maven structure, in that we have discussed about the this one. We have discussed about the maven folder structure, and in that we have discussed about the maven target directory as well, right? So I'll just, go to this particular path, project path. Okay. Now, if you see on HDFC level, there is one target directory is there, right? So if you see basically in this particular target directory, inside this particular folder, the dot class file is created. Okay. So what is meant by dot class file? What this particular dot class file is containing? Bytecode or machine code?
Bytecode, sir.
Yeah, it's containing bytecode, right? So now see previously how we are generating the bytecode. We have seen like how to generate bytecode. So we have to perform the Java C, right? So now in case of Maven, it is by default compile. In Eclipse as well, it will by default compile. But in case of Maven, what it will do basically, it will create one separate folder. Let's say name of the folder is target directory. And in that particular target directory, so it will create the classes and test classes. Now this particular class is your test class. Why I'm saying test class? Because I have created this particular class in the test classes, right? So this is, if you see, this is the test, and in Java, we have created this particular class. So that's the reason this particular test class is created. Okay, and in this test class, it's saying like, test maven class. Okay, so basically it's talking about this particular test maven class, right? So for that particular class, dot class file is created, right? Now, if I go to the Eclipse and here, if I say like, right click and I'll say run as maven build. Okay, so basically it will ask, what is your goal, right? So I'll say my goal is, clean. My goal is to clean, right? And I'll say run. Okay, now if you see, it's saying like, cleaning is successful, right? Clean is successful. Now, if I go to this particular folder, okay, so now this particular folder is clean. I'll go to the STFC level. Okay, so if you see target directory is not available now. If you see SRC is available, but target directory is not available. Right. Why it's not available? Because when I execute the maven clean, so basically what it will do, it will clean the target directory. Okay. So in target directory, basically we are having, different, outputs. Okay. So let's say dot class file is there. Let's say cucumber, different reports we are going to save it there. All right. So when I say like, maven clean, it will clear that particular target directory. So this is the first phase of your maven lifecycle. Okay, this is the first phase of your maven lifecycle. So when I say like maven clean, it will delete the target directory. Right. So now next command that we have maven validate. Right. So what it will do, it will validate the project structure and configuration. Okay. So what it will do, it will validate the project structure and as well as configuration. Okay, so it will check, what is the structure that we have for the project. It is correct or not. Is there any, issue with the structure that you have made? Okay, basically with regards to Maven, right? So if it is not correct, in that case, it will fail this particular phase, right? So what I'll do, I'll say Maven validate. Okay, so for that, again, I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, how to do it? Again, right click on your Maven project, go to the run as. Okay, then here, this is the option available. Okay, if I directly say clean, it will clean the project, right? But if I want to add my command, then I'm just going to say, build, and in build, I'm just going to add this particular thing, um, validate. I'm going to say validate, all right? And I'll say run. Okay, now it's saying successful because see, we don't have any issue with, structure, right? So for example, let's say I'm having some issue or what I did, like, I did not add this particular dependency, right? So now there is issue with my maven mom.xml file, right? Now if I go here and if I say like, maven built, and here I'll say validate. Okay, now it's giving some error. Uh, it's not able to validate this particular project, right? So it's giving some error that dependency on this particular line is missing, right? So validate is basically to validate the structure of your project is correct. It's not like if you are having some issue in your let's say code, it's not going to say like there is some compilation issue or some issues are in your code. So for example, let's say see this Chrome driver is already having issue, okay, because of this particular line I have removed, right? So what I'll do, I'll just say comment, so uncomment, and I'll just save it. Okay, now error is gone here, right? See, error is gone, right? But now here, suppose I'm missing this particular semicolon. Okay, now ideally it should not, fail this particular because it will not validate what I mean syntax. It will validate the structure of project is incorrect or is there any issue with the structure? In that case, only it will fail. All right. So for example, I will go here. Okay. Suppose if I go here and I'll say maven build. Okay, and I'll say validate. Right. And I'll say run. Okay, now it's successful. Still here we are having some issues, errors, right? Still it will not give the error. It will not check, your syntax is correct. It will look for the project structure. Okay. Now, if there is some issue with the project structure, it might be possible you have, some dependencies which is incorrectly added, some plugins you have incorrectly added in your pom.xml, right? So in that case, your validation is going to fail, right? So validation is basically look for the project structure is correct or not, or project configuration is correct or not, right? Now, next phase we are having for the Maven is the compile phase, right? So in compile phase, what it will do, it will compile the source code. That means it will generate your machine code to your byte code. Okay, so what Java C will do, same thing it will do for your project. Okay, so basically it will generate the dot class file. Now tell me in which folder it is going to generate the dot class file. Again, we have target directory.
Target folder.
And in target
Target
folder, it
folder.
is going to, yeah, in target folder, it is going to have this particular things, right? So what I'll do, I'll just delete this particular target directory from here, and I'll say maven compile. All right. Okay. So I'll add it here. Okay. So I'll say right click on project and I'll say run as compile. All right. And I'll say run. Okay. Now I'm getting some errors. What it is saying? Okay. So unknown life cycle. Okay. It's saying you must specify the valid life cycle phase. Okay. Alexa plugins or something like that. It's saying like, compile. So why it's giving the error for the compilation? Let me try it again. Run ads. Yeah. Now it is compiled successfully. So previously might be some what I am adding here, compile. I think previously it was not able to understand that compile command, but now it's compiling the project. Now if you see, compilation is successful. Okay. Now about Maven, what we have to remember, when I'm saying like, clean, it will clean the project. When I'm saying validate, it will check, project structure. Okay. When I'm saying validate, it will not only check the project structure, it will first of all clean and then validate. Okay, when I say compile, in that case as well, it will first of all clean, validate, and compile. So it will automatically execute the previous steps as well. It will automatically execute the previous steps as well. Right. So if you see in this particular case, what exactly it's doing, it just compiled the project successfully. Now, as soon as it's compiled the project, what it should do, it should create the target directory. So target directory is there. So it should have, your check classes is there. Nothing is there in classes. Source generated and status. Okay. So dot class file, I'm not sure why it is not created. So what I will do, I'll just, delete this again and I'll check whether it is creating dot class or something. Okay, so I'll say file, right click, and I'll say configuration, compile. Okay, so compilation is successful. Target directory is there. Since we don't have anything, sources we have annotations, status. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll just create few more files so that we'll have a little bit more clarity, right? So here I'll say, okay, in Java project, I'll create one class and I'll give the name a dot class. I'll select the public static void main as well here. Okay, so this is the class I have created here. All right. So in test as well, we have to create few classes. So let's say I'm going to create one class and I'm going to say this class is my B class. Okay. And I'm going to use the system.out.main here as well. All right. Now let's try to delete target directory and just right click on project, or you can do right click on form.xml as well. And you can say here run as, and you can select the configuration, right? So I'm going to say compile. Okay, so it's saying compile successfully. So target directory is created. In classes, we have a dot class, but test classes is not created yet. Okay, test classes is not created yet. See, but in classes, a dot class is there, right? So for this, it's generated. Bytecode is generated here. Okay, so let's say next command is there. Test command is there. So we'll see after the test command, it's able to generate the, it's able to compile the test folder or not. Okay, so but with the help of this particular compile command, so it is compiling the source code basically. So it is for the compiling the source code, compile command. So next command that we have, test command. So basically this particular command is
Okay,
to
sir.
run the, yes,
Sir, you are compiling the code through maven configuration setting.
correct. Mhm.
So you are not going through maven build and right click into the goal and writing the compile. So it is the same thing.
Same, because see, if I go to the config directory, right, so it will save the previous configuration. So that's the reason, because I have run this particular command couple of times, right? So in that case, either I can say like, right click and I'll say, run, and I'll say run as maven build. But here I have to add this particular word, right? Okay. If I saying like this, right? So I have to add this particular compile command here, right? But alternative, if previously I have already executed that particular compile command, so in that case, I'm going to say run and run as a run configuration. I will select. Okay, so this is my run configuration compile. So in this case, I don't need to write.
Okay,
Okay,
sir.
it will by default take previous one. Okay, so I'll say run it. So it will run and it will generate the class file. Sorry, dot class file. All right. So next command that we have is the test command, right? So when we say like, test command, so for that, basically what we need to do, we need to have some test test. So I'm not sure, I mean, whether it will execute it or not. Okay, so for that purpose, what I'll do, I'll add some test dependencies and I'll try to, add one test case, test test. Okay, so for that, I'll say maven test dependency. Okay, so as of now, you should, completely ignore this particular part, what exactly I'm doing. Just assume that I'm adding some test. Okay, so for example, I'm taking this particular version because so far we haven't learned this particular test engine, right? So in upcoming session, we are going to learn it. Right, so this particular dependency I have just added and I'll just save. And if you see, it started downloading this particular test engine. All right, so it might be test engine is on my machine. So what I'll do, I'll just create new and I'll say mother. Or maybe I'll create the simple class. I'll say class. Okay, and I'll say test for SDFC. Okay, and I'll say finish. Okay, and in this particular test, I'm going to add some at the rate test annotations, and I'm going to say or maybe here I'll say web driver equal to new Chrome drive. Okay, driver dot get. Okay, and what is the URL? So let's say I'm going to add, let's say this particular URL, blazometer, help blazometer. Right. Okay, so this is the test I have added. So let's see. if it is executing or not. I'm not sure it will execute or not, but ideally it should execute, right? If it is maven test, right? So I'll say test or test and test. Okay. Now I'm going to execute the command that is the maven test. So for that, I'm again using the same thing. Okay, I'm going here, I'm saying build, and here I'm saying like, test, and I'll say run. Okay. So in between, if I'm getting any error, no, right. Bootstrap class is not set for the injection, so set. Okay, not setting the bootstrap class path. Compiling the source file with the Java. Warning, I'm getting, okay. Okay, so haven't run any test. Okay, let me go to the target directory. Okay, now if you see the test class is compiled successfully, but issue is that I was expecting, it should run the test as well. Okay, but here what is happening is just compiling the test folder, right? So test folder is compiled here successfully. So we'll see why it is not running the test. Okay, so for that I'll search, how to run test, or maybe I'll say command to run test ng test with maven. Okay, usually maven. Okay, it's saying like, maven test, and you have to provide the stng.xml. Okay, is there any other way? Or maybe what I'll do, I'll just say maven d test as well. There is an option available. Maven clean test, someone is saying. Okay, I mean d suit. Okay, so I'll say, okay, so basically maven test is to run the test. Okay, but if you're having different tool, so to run those tests, there are different options available. Okay, so in this case, what I'm going to say, I'm going to say build. Okay, and instead of only test, I'll say -d test. Let me try with this. It's failing. Compile test source. So let me run it again. This time I'm just deleting this detest. Okay. Source and value. Maybe it's not matching this particular version. So let me check what is this particular thing. Project property compiler. It's already 1.8. Just a minute, we'll just plug in the charger. Okay. So ideally, I was expecting it should run the test when we are executing the run. Okay, but there is some issue. So let me create one. Let's say this is the project, and here, say, what so let me check first of all, test engine is installed here or not. So that might be possibly test engine is not on our machine. Right, for that, simply I'm going to say here help. Okay. And install new software. Okay. Instead of that, I'll go to the help and say Eclipse Marketplace. Okay, so testng is I think not installed on this machine. If I go to the install software, okay, so only these two softwares are installed. Right, so I'll search for the testng. Okay, so test ng for Eclipse, one plugin is coming here. I'll say install this.
Ajay sir, we have
Mhm.
already installed a dependency of test.ng.
No, no.
So
Dependency is something different. And here, actually, we are installing the plugins, right? For the Eclipse, right? And we have downloaded the dependency. That is different thing.
okay. So
So
what plugin will do, sir? Here. Uh,
plugin is just like, how we are having browser plugin, right? So if you are having some plugin in browser, so with the help of that plugin, you can do some operations, right? So now I'm having plugin here. Okay. Now if I'm going here and if I'm saying like, for example, if I'm right click, so let me install this plugin first, then I'll show you.
yes. Click on select all, sir.
It's not selecting, but I think it's got hang. Let's wait for some time.
Yes.
This is completely got hang. Okay. Not sure why. Okay, so what basically plugin will help you? So for example, previously I have created simple plain Java program project, right? Sorry, class, right? Now, if I'm having plugin, what I can do, I can create the test.ng class. So it will be create the ready-made test.ng class. In that, it will have some few tags ready-made available, few methods ready-made available. Um, so that kind of support we'll get if you're having that plugin.
Sir, if we installed only plugin and not added dependency to our
Dependency is
project.
required. If you are not having dependency, na, then I will not get that option at the rate test. Right. So at the rate test annotations I have added, right? So I will not get that. Right. In code, I will not get that option if you are not having dependence, that particular dependency added. So it will give the error. I don't understand what is meant by test at the rate test. All right. So it's hang.
We can restart this Eclipse, sir. It looks like
Now it is available. Select on trust. Okay, so it's saying like restart Eclipse. I'll say restart it. Okay. Now if I go to HDFC, okay, and for example, in test folder, if I right click here and if I say like, I want to create new and I'll say other. And if you see here now, test engine option is available. Previously, this test engine option was not available, right? So I'll say I want to create the test ng class. So it will say like, what kind of things you want to add this in test ng class, right? So I'm saying like, I want to add, let's say, I'll tell you what is meant by this, all this. Okay, so I'll say new test and I'll say I don't want to add anything. Okay, or maybe I will say I want to add, let's say, before shoot and I'll say finish. Okay, so it will have some ready-made this kind of structure available, right? So I'll say uh, this is my system.out.println new test, and this is my this out. And this is my before shoot. All right, so I'll say I'll add it. Okay, don't worry about this before what is meant by before shoot, what is meant by before test, and all this, right? So I'll cover this all the things, right? Okay, now we are having multiple tests here. Okay, and now I'll say right click and I'll say run as what build, and here I'm going to say test. Also finish. Now, if you see, previously this particular part was not coming. Okay, which one? This particular task, particular thing, right? Now it is saying like, before test is there. Okay, before test is there. And in that we have added the new test, right? So that particular test is executed. And if you see in the result as well, it's saying like, one test got executed, zero failure, zero error, and zero skip. Okay. Now, this particular new test that we have added, other test, I'm going to delete it. Okay, so maybe I will delete this, all the test. Okay. And here I'm going to add, let's say, Selenium code. Right. So for example, here I'm going to say web driver driver equal to new Chrome driver. Okay. And then driver dot what get. Okay. And then I'll save it and I'll say I want to run this particular test, right? So how to run? So I'll go here and I'll say run ads and I'll select this build and I'll say test. I'll say run. Okay, now if you see previous, I'm not sure anyone has seen this particular thing, but actually it's open this particular browser and in that it's opening the Blazor meter. So let me run it again so that you will get realize that it's actually running the test. I'll say maven. See, now every time you don't have to say like, build and run. Right now I'm getting the option, right? Maven run, maven test, right? So I can click on that option as well, right? So it will do the same thing. Okay. Now if you see browser is automatically open and that particular test is running, right? So now I haven't added any assertion. I haven't added any pass fail criteria like that, right? So it's just opening the browser and saying like, that particular test is run and it's successful, right? So it's saying like, one test run, zero failure, zero error, zero skip. All right. So if I add a few more test cases, then it will execute all. All right. So I'll say this one, this one. Okay. So only I am going to change the name. So this is the F1 and this is the F2. Right. And I'm going to say run. So now first test started. Okay, second test. And third as well started or not. Okay, I think it just done. Okay, it's saying one test only, right? So why this is it? Oh, I just missed one tag. That is the test. At the rate test should be there. At the rate test, because without that particular tag, he will not able to understand. This is the test, right? So to understand, to make it understand, you have to say test, right? So I'll just run it again, and I'll say run as maven test. Okay, first test, second test, and third test. Okay, so all the three test case has executed now, right? And now if you see, three test cases has run. Now, why I'm saying three test cases are there? Okay, so if you look at this particular class, okay, we are going to learn this particular thing in detail when we start with the test ng. But if you see, wherever I'm saying like, at the rate test, this is my one test. So from here to here, this is one test. From here to here, this is second test. And from here to here, this is third test. At the rate suit is different. Okay, this is not actually test case, right? Okay, so this is in this way, what basically we are doing with the help of at the rate test. So at the rate test is used to, execute your test. At the rate test, sorry, not at the rate test, your test goal, that means this one. Okay, so far we have learned the few goals. Okay, so in that we have test goal as well, right? So that particular test goal means we are executing the test cases. Test goal means we are executing the test cases. Okay. Now next goal that we have package. Okay.
Ajay sir,
Now yeah, please.
sorry to interrupt. Actually, sir, whenever we run our test uh,
Mhm.
through Maven, so it will create new .class file into the target folder.
Correct.
So every time if we run our test case, it will override that .class file over that.
Correct. Correct. So this is how how Maven will work. So whenever I say test, what it will do, it will first of all clean that target directory. It will validate, it will compile it again, and then it will test. It will execute the test code. So all the previous goal automatically will execute. All the previous phases will automatically execute. When we simply say test, it will first of all clean, validate, and compile, and then test.
So sir, if we run through Eclipse directly run our file, it will do the same thing.
Correct.
Clean, validate, compile and test every time.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So now next goal that we have is the maven package. Okay. Now in maven package. So basically, what it will do, it will compile your source code, it will run the test, it will then package and compile code into the distributed format. Distributed format means, so let's say how I can distribute my code. Let's say in the form of jar, in the form of war, right? So these are the two formats available, jars and wars. So there is POM as well, POM format as well there. So if you want to, distribute this particular files, or if you want to create the jars, in that case you have to do execute the command. So basically you can say like, with the help of package command you can create the jar. With the help of package command you can create the jar of your project. Okay, so how to create the jar? So for that you have to execute the maven package command. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll just say okay, so I'll just go my project, and here I will say run as maven build package. Okay, run as maven package, and I'll say run. So now if you see when I'm saying package, it's again executing the test. As I said, like, whatever the goal I'm saying, before that, whatever goal we have added, all these goals are executed. So I'm saying like, package. So in that case as well, what it is going to do, it is going to run your, clean your project. It is going to validate your project. It is going to compile your project. It is going to test your project. It is going to then package your project. Okay, now packaging means what I said, like it will create one jar file. Package means it will create one jar file, right? Because if you remember at the time of project creation, what format we have selected? I have selected that packaging in the form of jar. I'll tell you that particular thing as well. Okay. But if I'm selecting the packaging in the form of jar, so it is going to create the packaging of jar only. Right. Now where I can see this created jar. Right. So for that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to open the project location. So that is already open on my machine. Okay. So for example, this is this one, right? So this is our project that is SDFC, right? Now here target directory is there, right? So in that target directory, if you see this particular jar file is created. This particular jar file is created, right? So now if you see in this particular jar file, it's saying like, HDFC, that is my project artifact, HDFC, right? And then 0.0.1 snapshot, 0.0.1 snapshot. Now, why it is saying 0.0.1 snapshot? Because at the time of creating project, I have given the version of project, this one, right? And finally jar. So basically this particular jar is created. This particular jar is created, right? Now, when I say like, maven package, what exactly it is doing? It is just creating the project jar into the target directory. It just creating the project jar into the target directory. Now, why jar? Why not var? Why not pom? Right. So there are three formats we can distribute. Okay, or we can package it. Right. Now, if you remember, while creating the project, I said like, new project. I selected the maven project. Right. I say like, simple maven project. And here, at the time of creation, I selected like, packaging what jar. If I select packaging in the form of war, it will create the war instead of jar. If I select the packaging in the form of pom, it will create the pom. Okay, so you can select whatever you want, but most of the cases you're going to use the jar only for the automation project. Okay, so you have to select the jar always while creating the automation project. Okay.
Ajay, I have a question. What are the difference between the jar, var, and pom? Means it's
It's
sound
just
like
like, I mean, these are the different techniques of, making the your distribution, right? So if you see, jar is the Java archive, and var is the web application archive. So if you see, like, we can, whenever I will go and I'll say this is the folder I want to zip this particular folder. So how I can zip it? So simply I will say I'll go here, I'll say more option, and I'll say send to, and I'll say compressed zip,
zip.
right? So it will create one zip file, right? But tomorrow if I want, I can say like, more option. Now I think 7-zip is not installed on machine, but I can say like, zip it with the help of 7-zip, right? So it will zip like, with the help of 7-zip, right? So it just, doing the archive, that are the different techniques, right? So if you want, you can do, I mean, more research. What is the difference between jar and war? Okay, but basically,
Okay.
this just techniques of archiving the your project.
Project. Okay.
Okay, Java is the Java archive, and war is the web application archive. All right,
Most of the time we use the jar only
jar
for
only,
our
jar only.
project. Okay.
Yes, use jar.
Ajay, for the Jenkins also we can use war, right? Jenkins, under the Jenkins we have war file and we have to run that.
Hmm.
Yes, yes. because if we are downloading that particular Jenkins, uh, so through the war file only we are running launching that particular application, web application for Jenkins.
No, it's not like that. In Jenkins as well, we can use the war, right? So command is like that, java-jar jenkins.war, right? So Jenkins
Yes,
war file that we have downloaded, that is maybe in the form of war,
yes, yeah,
java-jar jenkins.war, right?
yes.
Okay.
Ajay sir, hello.
Yeah.
Sir, if you click on that created jar file, then this is a executable file, then what will happen?
No. This is not executable file.
It
It is
is
not like in
giving type executable jar file 2 KB. So if we
correct.
click
If you
or
click,
run,
nothing will happen.
okay, this is
Okay. So
not
it's not like
executable.
no. It's executable, but it's not like like exe file you are going to click on it and it will execute.
So
It
how
will
it
not.
will be execute, sir? If we are giving that jar file to someone
Right.
in format of jar, then how
Correct.
he will execute this file?
So he's going to add that particular Java jar file in his project, right? With the help of right click. Okay. Then build path, configure build path. Okay. And then he will able to add it, right? So in CLM as well, they might be, created jar file. And now we want those jar file in our project so that we can run the Selenium on our machine. All right. So similarly, what I'll do, I'll right click on this particular jar file and I'll say
Hello,
Hello.
Ajay sir,
hello.
your voice
Am I
is not coming.
am
You
I
are
am I
not
audible
audible.
now?
Yes,
Now?
yes, yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm saying like my screen is visible as well, right?
Yes, sir. Screen is visible.
Okay. Okay. So I'm saying like so for example, let's say I'm developing the Selenium, right? So I have developed my Selenium, and what I did, I have given you jar, and I'll say if you want, Selenium tool, what you can do, you can add that jar into the your project so that you can easily, use the Selenium on my machine, your machine. So you will download those jar, you will, say like, build path, configure build path, and you are going to add the Selenium jar. So right click on this project. So you are going to say build path and you are going to add the build path and you are going to add the external jar. So after adding it into your Java project, you are able to access that particular code. Right. So similarly, if you want to access anything in this particular project as well, so what you are going to do, you are going to add that particular project as a dependency. Right. So in that case only, you are going to use it.
Sir, actually, I want to know that if at the client or something customer side,
Mhm,
they are not developing any project or they are not working on Eclipse tool, right? And we
mhm,
have
mhm,
given him any jar file in the format of jar. We have given all the jar files to him, and he want to run
mhm.
these jar at his side. He have only installed JRE at his local machine, Java runtime environment.
Correct.
They are not working to develop that particular
Correct.
Java
So
project.
first of all, tell me you're talking about this automation or in general.
I'm just talking in general. Suppose we have created
Correct.
so many jars. So how he will run
Mhm.
these jars?
Right. So if you see for the Selenium team, we are the clients. So who are using the Selenium, those are clients. So what Selenium did, they have pushed their jars onto the maven repository, and from there I'm just downloading it into the Eclipse and I'm using it on my machine. So for the Selenium team, we are the clients. right? So how we are using this? Similar way they have to use it. Okay, it's not like that Java means like, suppose someone created the Java project, so he's not going to share the Java these jars with them, right? So what they will do, either they will add those jar into the some server, and from their server they might be launch the application. And let's say if it is in case of development, so might be if you want this particular jar, you can use in your project, and then from the server you can use those jar in your project, right? But it's not like that. Any end customer, you are going to give the jars file, and he is going to click on those jars file, and it will start their application. So it will not happen any time. Okay, so it might be possible the Java file we will use in your Java project, and finally what they will do, they will make the exe of that particular application, complete application, which is having that jar itself in that particular project. And with the help of exe, they are going to click on that particular application, so application will open. Okay, but if you want that kind of thing, then exe you have to make. Okay, jar will not help you. Okay, but in your project, what when you created the Java project, what you will do, you will add, suppose if you require any jar file, you will add it into your project, you will use it, and finally you will make the exe file, so that end customer will click on exe file, then some UI will open, they will do some action there, and those they can perform different actions there. Okay.
Yes.
but but
Ajay,
hmm,
uh, for the command line also we are executing that particular jars, right? Like
correct, correct.
Java
From command
minus
line as well
jars,
we can
and
right,
we are
right.
providing that particular file, and this is one of the way that we are executing that particular jars also.
Correct, correct. With the help of command line as well, we can execute the jar file. Okay, but it's not like that. For example, if you get the Selenium jar, right, and it is not having any feature to execute from the command. For example, if you want to start the Selenium server, right? So in that case, yes, with the help of their command java-jar selenium dot jar, and then you will execute that particular command. It will start the Selenium server on your machine. Okay, so that particular thing I will show you when we will start with the
Yes. Yeah.
Selenium grid.
Okay.
Okay, but yes, command line as well, we can execute this jar file. That's correct, Avinash.
Sir, this means that Maven also convert these jars to exe file, right? After that.
No, no, no. Maven will not convert exe file. So they have to write some logic. They will, you use different techniques to create this exe file. But I don't know. I mean, Selenium with the help of Eclipse, we can convert it into or not. But
Okay.
ideally, it's not that easy that creating the exe file and all.
Okay, sir. Fine, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay. But if you want to create some executable file, what we can do, we can create the bat file. All right. So in bat file, so let's say I understand like, with the help of, maven test command, right? So we can able to run the test with the help of maven test. So what I'll do, I'll just create one bat file, and I will click on that particular bat file. So it will execute my what? I'll show you that particular technique. Okay.
Means,
If you
sir,
want,
we have run 3 test cases through this jar file. So through the
no,
through
no,
the
no, no.
bat
Through
file
not
and exe.
through not it. It's not through the jar file. Through it's our project. This is your project. Through the project we have executed. After that, suppose I feel like, for assume that I'm creating one framework, right? I am core framework team only. I'm working as a core framework team. I'm not doing any automation. Okay. But tomorrow there are two teams. Those are going to use this particular framework. Okay. So let's say one team is, let's say Avinash is working in one team, and let's say Vipin is working in one team. Right. So there are team A and team B are going to use that particular framework. All right. So in this case, I will create one project as a Java project or as a Maven project. I will write the whole framework thing, like, how to read the file, how to launch the browser, what is the browser side logic. So all these I will write it into my framework. Okay. Finally, I will make the jar file, and those jar file I will provide to the let's say Vipin and Avinash, so that what Avinash and Vipin will do, they will use those jar file and they will start, jar files. What exactly we are having in that jar file? We are having framework, right? So what they will do, they will utilize their this framework for their application. So let's say Avinash is having in A team. So A team will, utilize that particular framework and they will create their test suite. So B team is going to do the similar thing, right? So in that case, we'll create the jar file and we'll publish those jar files to the different team. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Now see, we have created the jar file. Now those jar file is available in which folder? Target directory. Target directory. Right. Now, as we know that we have our local repository as well. So where is our maven local repository available? So in users
Okay.
M2.
Dot M2 file.
M2 is my
Local.
repository, right? So
Local.
local repository, right? So I will go to the M2 repository. Now, if you see, there are a bunch of folder already created. Okay. If you see, org folder is also created. So if I go to the org folder, in org there are a bunch of folder is created. Now, if you are just started with the maven, so it might be possibility in your machine there are not having this much of folder, but while working on this particular different project, I have, utilized this different jars as well, right? So that's the reason I'm having many folders created here. Okay, so if you see common IO I have downloaded previously, so for that as well, it's just, maintain. Okay, so previously maybe I have used this particular version, then this, so it is maintained all these things, right? So basically these jars are available in this particular M2 local directory. So if I'm able to see these jars I have downloaded through the maven repository. So where exactly it will available? So the jars are available in this particular location, right? Now, if you remember, while creating the project, we have provided the project group ID as com.tcs, right? So if I go here, so I'll search for the com. Right. So com is there. Com is there. Okay. Then com.tcs. Okay. So this is already created. Why? Because that might be possibility. I have already used this particular com.tcs project. So assume that in com.tcs, there are already this much of project there, right? But now SDFC project is coming new. Okay. That particular SDFC project is not available in local repository now. This SDFC project is not available in repository now. So now I want to use this particular SDFC project. Sorry, I want to add this particular SDFC project into my local repository, right? So how to add it? So for that command is there. That is the, which command is there? Install command is there, right? So if you see install command, so what install command will do? Install command is used to compile project, run the test, and install the install means. So basically what it will do, it will create our project jar file into the M2 directory, M2 repository. So it will create your, or it will publish your jar file into the M2 repository. So if you see, this is my M2 repository. This is my M2 repository, M2 repository com.tcs, but here SDFC is not there, right? So if I say like, if I go to the Eclipse and I'll say right click, okay, and I'll say run as and build, right? And I'll say install, right? Install. So if you see, installation is started. So before that, it will do the clean, then validate, compile, then test, and then it will do the packaging, and then it will do the installation, right? So once this is done, it will say like, build it successfully. So if you see the test is actually run again, right? Why? Because as I said, like, whenever you will execute any goal, so all the previous goal will execute. So now for the installation, what are the previous goals available? So if I go here, so for the installation, if I'm saying install, then previous goals are clean, validate, compile, test, package. So all these other goals or all these, phases will execute automatically. Right. Now what I'll do, I'll go to this particular directory, TCS. Now in TCS, if you see, SDFC is created now. Right. So now if I open the SDFC, now in this particular SDFC, there is one folder created that is 0.0.1 snapshot. Right. If I go to the 0.0.1 snapshot, one jar is available here. One jar is available here. Okay, that is the SDFC 0.0.1 snapshot.jar, because 0.0.1 snapshot is my name of the version that I have provided into the POM. All right, so tomorrow if I change it, then it will create the another folder here. Let's say 0.0.2. All right. So it will create the, so tomorrow if I go here and if I update the, version here, and I'll just save it. Okay. And I'll go to the project, and if I say like in maven run, okay, I have to say install, right? I'm not sure. Install where we are using install here. Install is there. Okay, so I'll say install and I'll say run. Okay. So now if I go to the SDFC, so 0.0.2 is created now. All right. So suppose tomorrow you are releasing the next version, that is 0.0.3. You just have to change the version into the pom.xml. So it will create the new version and you have to say the install, right? So this is how I'm installing the new version in my local repository. Okay, so installing means what it will do, it will create your jars into the your local repository. Right, so this is called as a maven install command or maven install. Right, so next thing that we have is
Sorry to interrupt. Sir, through package command, if we have run, then it will create in target folder that
correct,
SDFC. And
correct,
if we install that command, then it will create in SDFC jar file into the M2 folder, M2
correct, M2 directory, correct.
directory in
Yes.
in the domain, com domain, right?
Right. It's not domain, it's your group ID, right? So whatever group ID you have given, so it will create the folder like, com.tcs dot. Suppose I'm having group ID, let's say com.scriptqa, right? So what it will do, it will create the com.scriptqa, and in that it will create the folder for the artifact, let's say batch 71, right? So it will create the folder of batch 70 into the chrome.scriptqa, right? So batch 71 will be created, and in that particular batch 71, it will have this all these things.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
yeah.
Yes.
Now last command that we have is the deploy command. Okay, so deploy means what? Deploy means now I'm okay with on my local. Okay, now I want to deploy it into the maven centralized repository or maven remote repository. So let's say I'm working on Selenium development team. And let's say today, let's say we have version of Selenium is let's say 4.4.12. right? Tomorrow, if I done some changes and I have created the version, let's say 4.2.13, right? And I want to deploy that particular version onto the maven remote repository. So for that purpose, we are going to use the deploy command. Okay, but currently, I mean, I don't have, access, to deploy this particular on maven repository, or maybe it should have their accounts. It should have some, it will require, the accounts and all things. I don't have that maven accounts, to deploy these on maven centralized repository, right? So that's the reason we are not going to see this particular command, or most of the cases you are not going to execute this command, or it will not require. But if someone asks what is the maven deploy command, you just have to tell if you want to, deploy your jars, okay, into the maven centralized repository, then deploy command is there. Okay, so basically all these command you are going to use clean, validate, compile, test, package, install, and deploy, right? So all these particular pages available inside your Maven lifecycle. So if tomorrow someone asks what is the Maven lifecycle, okay, do you know Maven lifecycle? Okay, what are the different phases available in Maven lifecycle? What the Maven test will do? What Maven package will do? What Maven install will do? All right. So you should able to tell all these things. Right. So in case of clean, it will delete your target folder. In case of validate, it will validate the project structure is correct or not. Right. And all the configuration is set or not. Okay. If in case of compile, what it will do, it will compile your source code and it will add it into your target directory. Right. In case of test, what it will do, it will execute all the test case available inside the test folder. Right. If it is in case of package, if you're executing the package command, then what it will do, it will create the jar files inside your target directory. If I'm executing the install command, it will create the jar files inside your maven m2 repository. And deploy command will help you to deploy your jars into the maven remote repository. Deploy command will help you to deploy your command into the maven remote repository. Okay, so these are the few commands. Okay, now I have shown you how to execute those commands through your Eclipse, right? But all these command I can execute on my through my command prompt as well. Okay, so that's the reason. If you remember the first session of Maven, where what we have done, we have installed the Maven CLI, or we have installed the Maven clients on our machine, right? And we have set the path, right? So now if you want to do this, okay, so
Ajay
let's
sir,
say, yeah.
just sorry to interrupt. Just one thing, sir.
Hmm,
We have done some compile command. So compile command will create only main folder into the target file, and the test file will create the test folder.
correct, correct,
Dot
correct.
transfer, right?
Yes, that's
It's
correct.
same.
Correct. So so what it will do, suppose I say, like, the maven compile, right? So what it will do, it will compile the your main folder. Okay, test folder, it's not compile, that we have seen, right? So test folder will compile when we execute the test command, maven
Yes,
test
sir.
command. Okay. Now, what we are looking at, how to run this test through the command prompt, right? So for that purpose, what I'm going to do, I'm on this particular location. So let's say not on this. I'll just close this M2 directory. This is again M2. Okay. So I'll close all this folder. I don't need. Okay. So where is my project location? So for that, I'll say property, and I'll go to the resources, and I'll say open it. Right. This is my project directory. Right. Okay, now what you guys have to do, this is my project directory. So I just have to copy this particular path. Okay, so where your pom.xml is available, till that particular folder, you have to copy the path. Okay, you have to go to the cmd. Okay, and then you have to say cd. Okay, SDFC. Right. So now I am inside the SDFC folder. Right. Now here I will execute the each and every command. So let's say, okay, but here you don't have to say like, test only. You have to say mvn. That is the maven. Mvn means maven, and I'm going to say clean. Okay, now cleaning is done successful, right? If you see target directory is deleted, right? Then I have to say maven, let's say I'm going to say compile. Okay, so compilation
Validate
is,
there, sir, before compiling.
it's not necessary. Validate is as well. You have to execute. I can directly say like, package as well. As I said, like, if I'm executing, let's say any command, right? So it will execute all the previous command, right? So if I say directly, let's say maven deploy, right? So it will automatically do execute like your clean, validate, compile, then your package, then your sorry test, package, and
Yeah.
deploy. Right. So all the other command will execute automatically, right? So now if I say like install, install. Okay. So for that I have to say mvn install. Right. So it is automatically executing all other previous phases automatically. All right, and then it will create the jar and it will add it into the your local repository. Right. So it is successful now. All right. So now in case for example, okay, but you can try all these commands, right? So first of all, from the local as well, you can try all these commands: clean, validate, compile, test, package, through the Eclipse as well, and through the your command line as well. You can try it all. Right. Now, for example, how the VPN is saying like, I want to, in single click, I want to execute my test cases, right? So in that case, what you can do, you can go here, right? So as I know, like, to execute the maven test, what I need to do, I need to create one bat file, right? Sorry, I need to navigate to this particular location, right? So what I'll do, I'll just copy this particular path and I'll just say, I'll create one new and I'll say, or maybe I will, what I'll do, I'll just go to the notepad and I'll say cd. Okay, so how I execute the test cases. So for that, what I did, I'm just navigating this particular path. So I'm saying like, cd to this particular path and I'll say mvn
Test.
test. Right. Now, what I'll do, I'll just save it with which extension, with which extension, .bat file.
Dot that.
Right. So you might be aware of, what .bat file will do.
It
Okay.
will run the batch command, right?
Right, batch command. So if you want to run the sequence of command, then you can add it into the batch. It will execute the one by one. Right. So basically, when I will click on this particular bat file, so what it will do, it will first of all do the CD and then it will do the MVN test. Right. So I'll say my bat bat to, or I'll say run test dot bat. And I'll say save it. Okay. So we have created one bat file, that is the run test. I'll check where it is. Okay, so if you see, here is our run test.bat. Okay, so it's in ITR. Just cut it. Okay, so if you see, this is our run test.bat. Right. Now, if I say like, click on this run test.bat. So basically, if you see, I'll just clicked on this particular bat and my automation execution is automatically started here. Right.
Yes, sir, that is fine. But sir, we have installed all these environment to our local system. So does it run in another system also? Same thing.
Right. So it will not execute on another system because there your project should be there. All right. Now, if you're having project there, but you don't have Java there, right? So it will not execute. Now, if you're having project there, Java there, but Selenium is not there, right? In that case, it will not work, right? So all the dependencies will require there as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so that's it for today's session. If you are having any doubt, any query, you can ask.
Ajay sir, just one last question.
Mhm.
We have